Hey America, did you know that almost 45 million people are still living in poverty today? And did you know that the government is part of the reason why? Many individuals and families are struggling to feed themselves and their family each and every single day. They are dying by the minute. There are people out on the streets holding signs begging for even just a dollar, something that can keep them one step away from death. The biggest thing to keep in mind is that it didn't all start there. There are certain factors that cause these individuals and families to hit rock bottom. One of the main reasons people are under the poverty line is because they were born there. What is meant by this is that the individual was born into a poor background in which the family that child became a part of was already poor. Welfare deficiencies, education funding disparities, incarceration, and corrupt charities are all involved in poverty in America. Welfare deficiencies is a big contribution to poverty in America. In America, 52.2 million people participate in government welfare program each month because they struggle to supply their family with the necessities to survive each month. From food stamps to welfare checks, people use them to put food on the table, send their kids to school, and try to live a normal life. Unfortunately, it is not always enough. Welfare funding only covers 60% of families' expenses, not to mention when recipients get a job, they are cut back on the money they receive. Not every job pays enough to put food on the table, and when welfare cuts back on the money the recipients receive, it basically keeps them in the same position they were originally in. A solution to this problem is to not cut the recipients' amount of money they receive from welfare when they get a job, and to give them the same amount until they make enough money. Doing this alone will help people in need to keep a roof over their head and food on the table, and to afford school supplies for their children's education, which is also a problem. Education funding disparities is a problem because lower families considered lower class or lower middle class are not getting the proper education. Lower class families tend to live in lower class areas, so when that area has a lower class school, that school will not get the amount of funding the school requires. Majority of the money that goes into public schools come from state property and income tax. When living in a richer environment, the public schools tend to be better, and when living in a poorer environment, the schools tend to be worse. The children need proper education so they can get out of their lower class situation. But when the school is not getting the proper funding, the children go without their needed education. The children need education because it is important for their growth and development. A solution to this is to donate school supplies to schools not getting proper supplies. Another solution could be writing to local congressmen and congresswomen to find a solution to the funding that goes into schools. Education is important for children. Lack of education means higher chance of serving jail time. Another problem in poverty. Incarceration has a huge part to deal with poverty. The United States has 2 million people in prisons and jails, more than any other country. The people that come out of jail have a difficult time re-entering society again. 76.6% of people are released from jail within 5 years were arrested again, and along with that they have trouble finding a place to live, they have trouble paying back debts, and they have trouble finding a job. If they can find a job, their income is dropped at least 40%. Not to forget about the parents in jail with kids. In Georgia, 60% of inmates are parents. Children that have parents in prison are more likely to engage in behavior like join a gang, carry a gun, or commit other crimes, which will end up with the cycle having the kid end up like his or her parent or parents. A solution to fix this problem is to find an alternative method besides putting the person in jail. If a person cannot pay a fine, you could make them do community service. If they're caught with drugs, why not send them to rehab? Another way is to encourage employers to hire people who used to be in prison. Why should they turn their back on someone trying to fix their life? Other people who claim to fix lives instead are actually not helping. Corruption in charities is another problem in poverty. Corruption in charity is a problem when it comes to poverty in America. Charities are used to help out the needy. For example, the people living in poverty. People that donate money have to watch out for bad charities. Some charities claim to help out the needy, but instead keep the money. The corrupt charities have solicitors go around from place to place asking for a donation, or have solicitors call on the phone asking for donations. A solution to this problem and to help out the non-corruption is to always question the person asking for money. You could ask them who they're helping, where is the money going, and ask the name of the charity. Another solution is to use a watchdog, which is basically a website that shows the rating of a charity, where the money goes, and an overview of who they help. One amazing type of a charity is a food bank that helps people prevent the waste of food, which is another problem in poverty, by feeding the needy. Wasting food is another problem when it comes to poverty. 40% of food is currently being wasted, and 1 in 6 Americans do not know when their next meal will be. Grocery stores, homes, and restaurants are the main cause of food waste. Food should not be wasted. Food is precious and should never end up in the bottom of a trash bin. A solution to fixing the problem of wasting food is to try to recover at least 5% of the food wasted. That 5% could feed over 4 million starving Americans. Also, just simply thinking about the next time you want to buy an abundance of a certain food. Will you really end up eating it all, or will it end up in the trash? Donating food to a food bank is also a solution to not wasting food, a solution to helping people in need. Poverty in America can come from many different sources. These are by far the biggest problems. If we can fix one of these problems, it'd be a huge step towards fighting poverty.